Hi everyone and welcome to this episode of Women in Retail Talks. In today's episode, Melissa Campanelli, co-founder of the Women in Retail Leadership Circle, sits down with Susan Rotano-Davey, one of the founders of Prepare to Launch You, a new women's career re-entry course designed to guide women through the unique challenges of returning to the workforce after opting out to care for family. Listen in as they discuss their top tips. And now, on to the show.
Hi, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us here today at Women in Retail Talks. I'm so excited to hear about your Prepare to Launch You initiative and program.
Thanks for having me, Melissa.
Oh, no problem. So before we get started, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background, your professional background, and sort of how you came about launching Prepare to Launch?
Yeah, sure. So I started out on the corporate track. I started out at Xerox Corporation in the mid-'80s, kind of an accidental business person, but that was back in the day where you could not have any idea what you were doing, and a company would find you and train you and send you off on your way. And I had a really great career there. I was in sales and marketing. I moved up through kind of marketing management and then more general management, and I loved my job. And I got pregnant at 31. I was all set to have my baby and go back to work with a nanny like everybody else did. There weren't too many women, but the women ahead of me, that was kind of the way it was done. Mm-hmm. And then I had him, and I just was transformed in a way that I had not prepared. So I was instantly feeling this conflict between my maternal instincts and my career aspirations, and the maternal piece won. And so, unfortunately, at the time, there were no job share or part-time arrangements for me at my level. That would have been a great option for me. It was kind of all or nothing. So I chose nothing, and I stayed home. And I had 4 children in 6 years, so my kids are close in age, 2 boys, a girl, and then another boy. And during that time, the early years, I was diving deep into some of the things that I had stopped doing when I was working so much. I'm a musician, so I was doing some music work. I got back into teaching yoga. Things that I had done in my younger years that had kind of gone to sleep during my work years. And I was very fortunate when my children were very young to just pretty much step into this opportunity with a company that had just launched maybe 2 years prior called Flexible Resources. And I was with them for 20 years. And what we did was we worked with companies to help them understand what flexible work meant and why they should have a policy. And then we helped them design the policy and implement the policy on the one end. And on the other end, we worked with women, mostly women who had taken time off and opted out of their careers that wanted to go back in, but in a somewhat reduced schedule, and we placed them into those companies. And it was a terrific career. At about, I would say probably 15 or 18 years in, I started getting this kind of nagging feeling that even in our best years, we only placed about 20% of the women that we saw because there were so many more women looking for flexibility than there were flexible jobs. So on the side, in addition to my work with my firm, I started just working with women one-on-one where they would hire me and I would help them understand all the things they needed to have in place so that they could re-enter the marketplace, on the labor market on their own. And so it was kind of like the adage of, you give a man a fish for a day, he eats for a day. You teach him how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And I've that was kind of my mission. I can't let all these women come here and never get a placement when I can teach them how to find the work on their own. And in that capacity, I was speaking somewhere and I met my partner, Kelly Biskupiak, and we joined forces because she really focused on the personal development side of things and I focused more on the professional development. And the process for going back to work is really both. We started with a workshop, which grew into an 8-week course. And then as we got requests to bring it outside of our little neck of the woods of Connecticut, we realized we needed to scale it. And now we're introducing it in an online version.
Yes, that's what I found to be really exciting. And I love the idea. It's almost like training the trainer. Like you have to, educate and get people to do it themselves.
It's not as easy as you think to just kind of resume where you were.
Right. So I think we covered a lot there about there was obviously some white space out there that you saw the need to fill, and now you've launched it. You're going to be launching the online. By the way, when is the online version going to be up? Yeah,
the course will be up October 1st. And enrollment will begin the 3rd week or so of August. We just finished filming it last week, actually. 3 weeks of filming, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump ahead here and talk a little bit about some learnings that our listeners can get. So what is the biggest mistake women make, in your opinion, when they're trying to re-enter their workforce after a long absence?
That's a good question. I think that kind of two. I'd say 2 different camps. One is they think that all they need to do is like pull up that resume from 2002, dust it off, and send it out there, and it'll all happen for them. And then on the other end, they lack confidence. This is probably more common. So they just aim way too low. And the fact of the matter is the truth is kind of in between. I mean, you may have to set expectations that are slightly less than maybe where you left. Maybe you have to kind of climb your way up a little bit more. But there's a lot more to do than just dusting off your resume. I mean, things have changed so much. Even in 5 years, things change so much. So there is a lot of work to do to get you out there. But everybody is placeable.
Right. So, I mean, are there some like best practices that they should partake in, like when they decide they're ready to enter the workforce?
For sure, yeah. So I'd say the very first one is just to take a moment to reflect. I think a lot of people, I don't know how old you are, but I mean, if you're 40-ish, or 50-ish, your career may have been directed by somebody saying, oh, you're good at math, you should go into accounting, you'll always have a job. And the job that we chose at 22 and maybe enjoyed for a decade or however long we worked before opting out may not be the right job for us now. And so I think a lot of people just assume, I'm an accountant, I'm going to go back into accounting. But that's not necessarily true. So I think just doing some reflection, understanding who I am now, understanding what skills I've developed during my opt-out years. So even if I haven't been working, what have I learned from my time as a caregiver, as a volunteer, as a community leader, understanding my skills, taking some time to understand what the marketplace looks like. 7 years ago, there was no such thing as social media marketing. Now it's a huge field. Artificial intelligence ethics didn't exist. So understanding what's out there now, where could my skills fit? So the reflection piece, and then the second piece to get some help. If you can't get professional help through a coach or through a course like ours, at least assemble a team to help you. Find someone who maybe has already gone back to work. Pick their brains. Find someone in your community or in your field that's a really good connector and make time to meet with them. Start finding out from people around you what technologies you should be using. Find out if there are any major skills that you should have for the field that you left, if it's the same field you want to re-enter, and make sure that you do what you can to build up and overcome some of the skill deficiencies that you have.
That's great information.
Yeah.
So when women are, about to take a leave of absence, is there anything that they should do at that time to prepare, or is it something that they should probably do as they get more? I have when they're going to jump in. Yeah.
Right. I have this passion for wanting to reach the women who are like 30 and just starting their families and tell them all the things they can do to not need to take my course. And actually, Kelly and I have plans to do a course, just a one-day course called, all the things you need to do so you never have to take this course. So absolutely, because there are things you can do, and unfortunately you can't do them retroactively. So the first and easiest would be to ensure that you keep your contacts current. So if let's say you're leaving retail. I love retail people. I've worked with a lot of them, and they're a really affable bunch. They're friendly. They're social. What an easy group to network with. So keep those contacts current. That would be the first thing. And just keep your toe in the door. So that may mean if you belong to a professional organization, keep your license or your status updated. If you have licensure, making sure you keep your license updated. All those little things that tell the world that I haven't gone away completely. Keep a LinkedIn presence, and be open to little things. Even a one-day project can have a lot of power on a resume or in an interview. So let's say you have a background in like your retail, so merchandising. There are ways to use merchandising in other fields. Let's say you're working at an event and you're required to do some decorating or some placement of sponsored products or whatever. Volunteer to do that. Get that on your resume. So do what you can to keep your skills somewhat alive during your opt-out years, and that would be the best advice I'd give.
That's great advice. And do you find that from your experience that, I think some people, this is from a personal experience, might shy away from posting or putting on their resume anything they've done in a nonprofit. For instance, if they were on their child's PTA or something, it's like, is that like frowned upon? Do corporate, or people take it seriously, if they were to put something like that on their resume?
It all matters on the way it's packaged. So if I see that, if I look at a resume today and it says, let's think of some of the schools' names are so odd. Like there's a school around us called Tooten Hills Elementary School. So if it said Tooten Hills Elementary School PTA, I might poo-poo it. But if instead it said, the name of the city, like West Hartford Public Schools, president of such and such or treasurer of such and such. So the language matters. what you did matters. So if you're working recess duty or collecting tickets for a ticket drive, that really doesn't have a place on a resume. But if you're a financial person and you're a treasurer of an organization, or if you work in sales or marketing or development and you're doing, you're soliciting sponsorships for an event, if you were the webmaster for your kids' hockey team's website, those kinds of things you can make sound better. And, even things like, I've had women come in and say, well, I don't really do anything. And then once I spend an hour with them and ask them a bunch of questions, I've got a whole page of stuff they've done. And something as simple as, I do my family's taxes. Well, you know what, then you know QuickBooks and you know how to do taxes. That's big. That's bookkeeping, and that's something that virtually any small business needs. So absolutely, those things have a place, but they really need to be well communicated.
Right, that's so great. So we talked about the women, the retail specifically. So we don't need to go into that anymore. But just a couple more questions. Is there any? These are all great ideas. Is there anything like quick or a quick tip or trick that a woman can do? Like take 5 minutes and do something. Anything like that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think I kind of covered it in the earlier question. The reflection piece to get some help. There's really nothing that takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I think the biggest mistake women make is I'm ready to go back to work, so I'm just going to find someone to do my resume. But the resume has no context because she hasn't really figured out what she wants to do. So a resume is only good if there's an audience that it's speaking to, and you know who that audience is. So really, it's not quick. It takes, you've got to put at least a couple of weeks into talking to people you respect, getting information, researching fields. You can do something as easy, like, while your kids are napping, if you have little kids, you can log into Indeed or one of the Career Builder, one of the job sites, and just type in some skills. You don't have to even type in job names. Type in, okay, I'm good at research. So type in research. See what jobs come up. And then maybe click on a couple and read, okay, this is what these jobs require. Now, you don't have to meet all of the requirements, but at least get some ideas. Okay, these are the things that they're looking for. And it may be that you decide, gee, I've got to do some real work. I've got some serious skill deficiencies. I have to be proficient in X. So I'm going to go to my town's continuing ed, which is a very inexpensive way to get good skill training, and I'm going to do that. So it's really taking the lofty and the larger goal of I want a job and then breaking it into the smaller steps that you can do along the way.
That's perfect. That's a great idea. So just in closing, so tell us a little bit more about the course. You did mention that the online one is launching in October, but how does the course work, and how could people apply if they want to?
Sure. So it's a soup to nuts course. It's really everything. So we spend a good amount of time on the foundational work, assessing your personality, your strength, your values, kind of who you are at the core, your aptitudes, and we partner with other organizations to give you some really good tools to do that type of assessment. So the first module, it's a 3-module course, is called Reclaim, and that is basically just really finding out who you are now, because it's likely it's someone different than you were when you stepped out to have your children. Then the second part of the course is called Refine, and there we start teasing out a little bit more, okay, where do these strengths fit? Where do these values fit? What are your priorities? Because there's also, if your priority right now is I need money because my spouse lost his or her job, then your motivations are going to be very different than someone who's really looking for, maybe has the luxury of not a dire financial need and can spend some time really finding the career that's the right fit. So we help direct you to the third lesson or module of the course, which is called Relaunch, and that's where we put all the tactics in place. So we write your career plan, we put a life balance plan in place, and we start working through, this is the resume, now we're going to learn how to network, this is how you set up a LinkedIn profile, this is how you interview, this is how you negotiate an offer, this is what you wear to the interview, this is what you wear when you start your work, this is how you keep your life in balance after you work. So there's tons and tons. I think there are 32 or 33 exercises in the whole course. And I think it's about 16 hours of video. What we're doing is on October 1st, we're launching it. You can take it with us. We're doing about a 2-hour chunk a week over 8 weeks. But some people may want to just dive in and do the whole thing in a week if they can. But it's a combination of work with us, work on your own with a workbook or with a downloaded document, and homework. And it's a really, of course I'm going to say it's a great course, but it's a very complete course. And one of the things you and I talked about before we got on the call was, what's the white space out there? What was missing? If you're a mom who's returning to work and you want to get this help, you can find it, but you have to really look. You have to let a bunch of coaching sites to find someone to kind of help you figure out your direction. Mm-hmm. And then you have to find a good resume writing source, and they're dubious at best. I mean, I've seen great work out of some of them and really horrific work from others. And then I got to figure out, okay, so now I need to remember how to interview. So I'm going to go on YouTube and do an interview tutorial. And so it's all piecemeal. And, if you have kids and you're trying to go back to work and you still have the full-time responsibilities at home, you don't have time to sit at a computer, and that's where people end up kind of circling around the drain. They have the idea, they want to do it. What we do is we tee it all up for you on one platter, and all you have to do is log in, and we give you everything. So I'd say that's probably the best value of our course.
Yeah, it sort of puts it in an organized way of thinking about it, because you're probably so overwhelmed that you don't even know where to start.
It isn't, and it can be a lonely feeling too. I mean, some people are really, they feel like they're only one. And one of the things that we offer in our course is a proprietary network. So everyone who takes the course, regardless of where they are in the country, will, if they choose, be able to set up a profile in our little proprietary social network. And then let's say you're in New York, Melissa. So if you want to find people who are in your general area, let's say you're Westchester, you can type in Westchester and find out who in my county is taking this course that I could maybe connect with.
Wow.
Or you're in retail. I want to find out who in the country is in retail that I can tap into. And we can talk about different ideas that might be germane to our field. So we're trying to make it kind of as feel as live as possible, even though it's a recorded course. And if I can add one more thing.
Sure.
We are offering a mini course. We decided that because we've used focus groups and we've had some beta testers, and we decided, even though we're pretty well known in our area, people don't know who we are. We're Susan and Kelly. Nobody knows who we are. So who's going to take a chance? Who's going to take a chance on us? So what we did was we designed, and we just finished filming a mini course, and it's kind of just the first step in the door of returning to work, and it's the 3 essential steps to kind of get you on the road to returning to work. And it can lead into one of 2 ways. It can be for the self-starter. It's enough to get that person kind of on their way. Or it's also a great first taste of the course. So people who take the mini course may then matriculate on to the full course, and they'll have that foundation already in place to help them through the full course. And we're going to open enrollment on that. I think it's August 8th.
Oh, okay.
And that would be, very inexpensive. It's 2 hours of work, but it's a good place to kind of get your feet wet.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. It sounds so exciting. I think it's a great service that's much needed. So I'm sure our listeners
will be much.
Yeah, I'm sure our listeners would be really excited to learn about this and hopefully, check it out. So is there a website for them to check into, or?
Yes, our website has everything on it. We've got blogs on there. We've got some live video of us giving some tips so people can kind of meet us. And it's www.preparetolaunch, and then the letter U, .com. And I've worked with a lot of May Company. Does May Company even still exist?
Not really.
It's a big retailer in the 90s. I worked with a lot of them.
It's kind of been spread around a little.
Yeah, okay, like everything else.
Yeah.
But I have to say, the retail people, I just feel like they have a better chance at success just because of the kind of work that they do. They are good at self-promoting. They're good at presenting. I would encourage anyone who's taken time off from retail that's looking to return to dive back in, because I think you're really marketable and your skills are transferable. I've seen people move from retail to other fields quite easily. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for people in that space. And I'd also encourage the executives who listen to your program and the hiring managers to just give that woman returner a chance. All the work that we've done, all the research we've done over the years shows that the woman who returns to work is often the best employee there. She really knows how to work. She's not distracted by office politics because she just wants to do the job. She puts her head down, she gets it done, and she leaves. So, if you're a hiring manager and you're looking at that resume and you see that gap, give that woman a chance.
That's a great way to look at it as well, from the other side. Sort of, not only is it the woman getting herself back into the workforce, but it's being accepted by the hiring manager or the executive, which our listeners are. So that's a very, very good point.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Susan. It was so great talking to you. I really enjoyed it, and
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, be sure to visit our podcast channel page at www.wirlc.com/podcast for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher, but be sure to subscribe to our podcast channel page as well. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.